Welcome to Canada's podcast.
Hello, this is Robert Smigel with Canada's podcast, where we talk to the entrepreneurs who are making it happen here in British Columbia. Today, our guest is Ilya Goldman. Ilya has been in the internet marketing industry since 1996. He started his own web design and online marketing company way back in 2001 with a goal of bringing more businesses into the World Wide Web. He has worked on over 1,000 web projects. His clients include huge organizations such as UBC Press, McGill Press, as well as a very small companies with self-employed individuals. He's also certified by Google and Microsoft. He has a wealth of knowledge on web design and online marketing through nearly 2 decades in this field. Whenever he works with his clients, he wants them to be aware of anything that could be helpful to them and their business, such as business grants for up to $15,000 and a $2,400 grant for the digital presence. Ilya, welcome to Canada's podcast. I appreciate you taking your time today to share your entrepreneurial journey with all our.
Thank you very much, Robert. It's very nice to be here.
Great. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself and your current business? I understand you came to Canada a few years ago. Is that right?
Oh, well, I came back in 1994. So I finished my education here. I was working as a programmer in a few different companies. It was good. And at the time, I met someone that was running her own business. And I thought, well, that's an interesting lifestyle. So I started my own, at the time, web development company. And I was kind of getting some projects here and there. And then I got laid off from work, and I thought, well, that's a good time to pull myself fully into my business. So that was more than 20 years ago. And initially, I started as a web design company, quickly found out that people looking to get more business through internet, and that has been our main focus since then. And as you've mentioned, we worked with some really big organizations, such as universities and political parties, as well as with countless small businesses and medium businesses and self-employed individuals, easily 4,000 to 5,000 projects, which makes a lot of sense because we've been in business for such a long time. And whenever we work with anybody, we want to make sure that they take advantage of anything that is available out there. And this includes special deals by, let's say, Google or Facebook or Bing, if we advertise them there, as well as business grants. And there are some business grants available. One was for $15,000. Unfortunately, that's not available anymore. The other one for $2,400. And those grants can certainly be very, very helpful for companies.
Okay. How is the adoption rate going for you when you're talking to prospective clients and describing this grant of $2,400? And how's that go as far as getting them on board and the process? What does that look like? Can you walk us through?
The process is not particularly complicated. Essentially, we go with them over grant. And the way these grants work is there were 2 business grants available under Canada Digital Adoption Program. The first one is for $15,000, and it covers 90% of expenses working with a digital advisor. And digital advisor is specifically a company that has been approved by the grant to work with applicants. So we are an approved digital advisor. Unfortunately, the $15,000 grant is no longer available. The other grant that is available is for $2,400. And $2,400 grant covers 100% of expenses related to digital presence. So whenever we talk to people regarding those grants, the majority of them, I don't know if it's 90% or if it's most of those people do go through the application process. Some of them do get rejected, although there is some bureaucracy involved with back and forth between emails from the grant and the exchanges between the grant and exchanges between the applicants. And we do actively try to help people with it. Those that get through this process, and it's not so much that it's very demanding, it just requires a bit of attention to keep an eye on the emails that come through. Those that do get through this process do get the grant, and we do our best to make to have them get the most benefit from it.
Now, what does someone get for $2,400 when they
So,
do they get the grant, they get approval? What can they spend it on?
so the $2,400 business grant, it covers things such as online marketing campaign. It covers things like search engine optimization. It also covers things such as e-commerce development, or let's say adding online booking on a website, so things like that. So in many cases, it would cover either development of a website, and depending on the required, it can have either online store or online booking. It can cover the online marketing campaign. So it can certainly give companies a pretty big boost in terms of establishing their online presence.
Good. And so that grant is 100% free. They don't have to pay it back, and it goes toward they use it towards their online presence.
That's correct. So this particular grant covers 100% of the expenses. In terms of the procedure, it requires it's a reimbursement grant. So it requires applicants to submit an application. Once they are approved, they are required to submit invoice and receipt. And once it's reviewed, they receive the reimbursement for this grant.
Okay, good. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the online marketing industry and what that has looked like you for over the last 20 years that you've been at it. Can you give us one piece of knowledge or information about your industry that you could share that would benefit our listeners? Something that the common person may not know about online marketing, what that looks like, and how it's changed over the last few years.
Well, I feel in terms of the online presence, people have that idea that they need to spend a lot of time on that. And if they have that time, that certainly is helpful. But in many cases, it's a matter of having a clear idea what it is that they want to have there on the where they want to get with the online marketing, and also what are their resources for that. So if they decide, I'm just going to post on Facebook or Instagram, and I'm going to do it every day, they're likely to spend a lot of time doing that. But even with that schedule, they're not necessarily gonna get much out of that. However, if they decide a more, I would say, business-oriented goal, like, for example, I want to have top placement in search engines for those particular keywords that are useful for my business. And in that case, it's a much more achievable goal, because they, if they do research and things like that, they will see, okay, I need to have this necessary content on my website, or I need my website to be faster. They can certainly put a lot of effort into that themselves. They can hire somebody like us to do it for them. But the what they need to have is a clear goal in terms of what they actually want to achieve with their online marketing.
Okay. Now, what areas do you guys, internet exposure, what areas do you guys cover? I mean, you guys cover the design, lead generation, things like that. What is your area of expertise if someone was to call you up and say, what can you do for my business? What would that be?
Our main focus is to get our clients more business through internet, and we do whatever is necessary for that. And that entails mainly getting them online with their own website, and also getting them on the top of search results. So whenever people looking for their product and services, they can find them. So I would say web design and search engine marketing are our main focus. We deal with social media as well, and generally also with the goal of getting them more clients through internet.
Stay ahead of the game with our expert tips and strategies that will help your business thrive in a digital era. CanadasPodcast.com. Subscribe now.
Let's talk a little bit what that looks like in British Columbia and operating a business in British Columbia. You've been doing this for a very long time. So I want you to give us the biggest benefits about being an entrepreneur in British Columbia. I want you to share some good points, but also some good challenges that you've had to overcome from operating your business in British Columbia, Canada.
Well, I feel that British Columbia, and it's hard for me to compare with other. Well, I wouldn't say it's hard for me to compare. I do see that it's a very entrepreneurial place. There are a lot of businesses here, which is certainly very helpful for my business that deals with other businesses. The Other places in Canada that I also feel are very active would be Alberta and Ontario. That's where most of our clients come from. Whenever we run campaigns that cover most of Canada, that's actually where people are coming from the most. And certainly British Columbia is a very in that along with those other provinces. So Ontario, Alberta, and British Columbia, I find they are the most active provinces in terms of getting business clients. The advantage, I think, of British Columbia is that there are lots of immigrants here, and immigrants do often open their own businesses that do require services like ours. Also, because there are a lot of businesses, because there are a lot of immigrants, they don't have their own vendors or their own network at that point. So, for example, they're looking for a plumber or something like that. They don't necessarily know somebody. They just go on the internet and they find it, and they're looking for it, which makes it advantageous for companies to have high search engine placement. So there are just more people looking for the things as opposed to more settled places where everybody kind of already knows everybody. It's still beneficial, of course, for them to get on the top of search results, but it's more so in a place with more immigrants. So I do feel it's certainly helpful. For very specific things, there was another grant, and like I said, I do want my clients to at least be aware of the grants that they can get the most benefit from it. There were some grants specifically related to British Columbia that were not available in other places, such as a $7,500 grant about 2 years ago, I believe, and that thoroughly helped a good number of my clients. So I would say British Columbia is an excellent place, at least for my business, to be in.
Okay, good. Now, you talked a little bit about immigrants, and there's a lot of immigration in Vancouver. I'd like to always ask people this: if you were to start all over again, I want you to imagine you just landed in Vancouver. You're just coming, you're getting settled. Knowing what you know now, you've done this before. What are some of the things that you may have done differently, or some of the things that you could recommend to other people who are coming to Canada or even British Columbia? Say, hey, I've done this. Here's what I'd do differently, and here's some of the things that I would recommend. Is there anything that you could?
I would absolutely do my business the way I do it now, because I grew into my business. So everything that I do right now is the result of me learning about things as I was continuing to develop it. And it didn't particularly stop. I still learn new things after more than 20 years in the business. So I feel that I would definitely continue. I would, if I were to lose everything and I would start from scratch, I would start exactly where I left off, just without all the established, clients and employees and things like that. In terms of people who just starting over, I feel, other than online marketing, which I feel is excellent field, but you are competing with pretty much the world. So you do need to be on top of your game, as with any business. But for local businesses, I feel there is a good amount of demand for, let's say, construction companies, for plumbers, for electricians, for dentists, for any sort of businesses. And I do feel that it's an excellent opportunity for new people who come here. Either they come from other parts of Canada or from other parts of the world, or just finish the education and thinking what to start. I feel there is a lot of demand here. And if they were to start a company like that, electrician, plumber, dentist, anything that serves local clients, they can do very well. And I think the other piece of advice is if you do something in business and you know that you can teach somebody else to do it and have them do that, just hire people and have them do that. You as a businessman, your objective is not necessarily to do things, but to get things done. So if you put the necessary structures in place, if you have other people that can do some parts that some parts that you don't need to focus on, it will free your time to help more people.
Okay, so you've been in the business for a long time. And speaking of helping other people, you've obviously seen a lot of businesses come and go, a lot of businesses, clients that you've had. How do you define success, and how do you celebrate your success, not just for you, but for your clients?
For my clients, I am looking to get them what they're looking for, which is, to get them more clients. So, and I'm very happy that a lot of our clients actually happy with their online marketing, right? Which is, how often people happy with the advertising, but they are happy that what we've been doing for them. So to me, that's certainly a success. Other parts of success, I feel, is different for every individual. So for me, I do appreciate how in my business, I do have a freedom of space and I do have a freedom of time. I can do my work whenever, wherever, as long as it's done. And it is a huge advantage and certainly makes my life much easier, makes it much more beneficial for my family that I can, I like to work when they sleep, which because I can work whenever can be done. So it is, I do feel that there is a measure of success. So it's not so much like I think that having money.
It's not just the monetary.
Very nice.
It's not just the monetary. It's just the
I would say monetary is a part of that. You want to be comfortable, but in the end of the day, it doesn't really matter how much money you have in the bank. What I think matters is how is your daily life. If you work 20 hours a day, it doesn't matter that you have 20 million in the bank. It's just, there is very limited opportunity to enjoy it, right? If you work, I think reasonably maybe 10 hours a day, and then it does allow you to keep a steady business. It does allow you to make your family happy, and it does allow you to enjoy life.
Right.
So okay. I would say in not as many words, maybe a good work-life balance.
A good what?
A good work-life balance.
Okay, so how do you work in the life balance and how do you relax? I mean, being an entrepreneur, you work a lot, put a lot of hours in. How do you check out and do your thing and make it so being an entrepreneur is your lifestyle?
I feel that scheduling is a very big part of that. So, for example, if I do plan to go out with my wife or with my family at a certain time, I know that I need to get my work around it. Or scheduling appointments, even for something simple like that. If I know that I'll have a trip, let's say next month for a week, I can simply arrange not to have meetings at that time. So I do have a good handle on my schedule, more or less. And I do have freedom, if there is a certain busy day, okay, great. I can work more during that particular time or work on weekends to get things done. So I do have time to do things that I have pre-planned a while ago later on. So I think being able to control my schedule so well does give me a good amount of freedom.
Okay. Where do you see your business in 5 years? If you were to say, this is where in 5 years from now, this is where I'd like to be. Do you want to grow? Do you want to expand? Do you want to open other offices? Do you want to do more business outside of Canada? Do you have any long-term goals for your company?
I certainly do. And I feel there has been a steady growth in my business. I have been hiring more people, also salespeople, who basically talk to clients, see what they need, see if there is any opportunities available for them, and get them to the point where they basically ready to proceed with the project. So I've used to do more of their work. Now I have my salespeople do more work, which allows me to get more of those more actual clients. And I am looking to continue to grow that way. I do have some good procedures in mind. It's a matter of handling more of that. I cannot tell specifically, if it's going to be, double the size in the next 3 years or 5 years, something like that. But if things continue to go the way they're going, there will certainly be a very good growth. And I do like that there are currently good opportunities for me. I feel that I'm in a good place where I have a lot of processes already established, and it's just a matter of putting more into those processes, getting more developers, getting more salespeople, and keep moving forward.
Okay, so you want to grow the business?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I feel it's I feel like the world is a resource, and if I have options to get more out of this resource, I really want to. So right now, if I developed a good way of working with more businesses, hiring more people, and making it all work, I'll probably continue to push it until it stops making sense, but hopefully it'll never stop making sense.
Canada's podcast is your gateway to success in the world of entrepreneurship. Start listening today. CanadasPodcast.com. Subscribe now.
We're going to ask you a few fun questions now that we've taken care of business. If you weren't doing what you do now, what would you like to do for a profession?
I don't know if I would like to do that, but in terms of, I think it's more of a career question. If I didn't start my own business over 20 years ago, what I would be doing. And at the time, well, not at the time, I was already running my business, but I was also heavily involved in martial arts, and I had my gym at the time as well. The gym is still there, but I'm not involved with it other than taking care of the website. And I might or might not have become an accomplished fighter. I did do well in the local competitions. It is a stupid choice for career because the chances of injury so high, and because of it's a short-term career with long life health negatives, but it would have been fun for as long as it could have lasted.
Yeah. So, do you still participate in that? Are you still practicing martial arts?
Not as much. My focus is business and family time. So something has to give. And as much as I like sparring with other people, it doesn't benefit my business or family time. So I don't do much of that. Also, as we get in more advanced in age, it is there are risks of injuries. I do remember when I was younger, something always hurted. And I was wondering, what exactly do I do that my head hurts all the time, right? And it was like sparring just with jabs, right? So I stopped doing it. I'm like, I don't know. I guess maybe I sleep more. Maybe I drink more water, right? All of a sudden, my head doesn't hurt anymore, right? So it is fun. I enjoy doing that, but I don't particularly want to make it a regular part of my schedule because there'll be, you'll take a good amount of time, and I don't feel it's going to be beneficial for my health and family life or business.
Okay. Entrepreneurs are busy people. They deal with a lot of different people and situations. What 2 words would you use to describe yourself?
In terms of describe myself, well, I guess 2 words would be Ilya Goldman. But if I had to find other words, probably reliable. I do my best to deliver on what I promise, and often more than that. And I do my best to promise what I can deliver. And the second one, probably resourceful. Whenever I work with somebody, it is my duty to make sure they're at least aware of everything out there that would be beneficial for them. So I do my best to present it to them and take advantage of it if they do want to take advantage of it.
Okay. I also, too, working with you, I also find you to be honest, an honest businessman. Is that important for you to be honest with your clients?
Well, absolutely. And I think that's a part of reliable. So you work with somebody, and I say, like, you interact with many people in the world, and you need to know that you can rely on those people. If you ask them to do something, it will be done. If you ask their advice on anything, they'll give you the best advice. So I really want to make sure that whenever I work with somebody, that people can trust me with what needs to be done and rely on me to do it in the best way possible. So being reliable and honest, I think, is probably the most important aspects of running the business or even living life.
Yeah, I think that's also important with in business, because people find out about you and your kind of presence, or your how you work and how you operate your business carries on into other business recommendations, for example.
Absolutely. Right. And I think it's ultimately, I say, like, it's very easy to cut corners and miss some things and forget some things. It's very easy to lose track of that. But I think ultimately you are the result of your choices. You might save, 10 minutes of not following up, for example, for the next meeting, but then you lose hours when those people, don't show up, and you lose on thousands, maybe even millions of dollars if there is no business generated from it. So I think it's absolutely essential to be as reliable and honest with your clients, your employees, family, anybody really you deal with.
Okay. Is there any advice that you receive from mentors, other entrepreneurs, people you've worked with, that you can pass on to entrepreneurs throughout Canada? Is there anything that you maybe read or heard, or
I did hear good advice, and that was, a confused mind cannot make a decision. So if you are talking to a client and they are interested in some things, you have to make it very clear to them on what they will be getting, what they will be paying, what are the benefits of what they're getting, if it makes sense to do that, if there is a better way to do that. So you have to absolutely make it clear to them and make sure they understand, right? So that they are comfortable to make the decision. And when they make the decision, they know exactly why they're making it, and what would be the benefit from it.
Okay, good. Let's talk, just to wrap things up. We're going to talk about the grant. How can people get hold of you and talk about the grant, and what does that look like once you have your first conversation with them, just so they're at ease, they know it's not going to be difficult, and just kind of walk us through what that would look like if they were to call you tomorrow?
Sure. So they can contact me at my website, www.internet-exposure.com. They can also call me at my toll-free number, 866-609-3248. Once I talk to them and see what they want to do, we'll probably, after initial conversation, we set a Zoom meeting, either with me or with one of my colleagues, where we'll go over that grant application if they want to take advantage of it, or whatever services that they're looking for. For example, they want to get more clients through internet, or they want to establish online presence, or they want to add a certain feature to their business website. So we will figure it out and decide on the best way to proceed.
And you will actually walk them through the application process. Is that right?
That's correct. So either I will work them through the application process, or my colleagues will do that. And we've been dealing with a lot of grants, so we know how the application should be done and what the grant can be used for. So they most likely will be approved and get the most benefit from it.
Okay, and this grant is across Canada, so someone calls you from Ontario?
That's correct. So it is in the $2,400 business grant, covers whole Canada. I believe they stopped it recently in Quebec and Yukon. They did stop the $15,000 grant a few months ago as well. So I do hope that grant will continue for a while. But as my experience with grant shown, they can stop at any moment. because they got too many people, or because they run out of money, or because there are some changes in the government. So whenever something like that is available, it's best to take advantage of it sooner rather than later, because later it simply might not be available.
Yeah, and if someone's got some questions, they're just not sure about it, what that looks like. Are they eligible for this grant? I guess the best thing is just to call you. You'll assess their business situation, see if they would
That's right.
pass.
In terms of eligibility, currently it's for companies that have $30,000 or more annual revenue, or an employee on payroll who is not a business owner. Certain types of companies are not eligible, such as real estate agents, investment advisors, manufacturers, unless they deal directly with consumers, drop shipping businesses, again, unless they directly produce the products and deal directly with consumers. So it's majority of businesses are eligible, but there are some situations where it might be better to talk to them to make sure that they are likely to receive the grant.
Okay, great. Okay, Ilya, thank you so much for coming on to Canada's podcast. I've learned a lot about you and as well as the grant, and I'm sure our listeners have as well.
But thank you very much. It's very nice to be here. And great job of keeping this podcast going. It's been years, I think.
Yes, it has. It has. Started with the Vancouver.
How many years has it been now?
I started in 2015 with the Vancouver Entrepreneur.ca
It's amazing,
podcast.
Right? It's almost a decade of you doing it. And
yes.
So I hope there'll be many, many more decades more.
Thank you. Yeah. And I think it's now that we've expanded across Canada, it's giving a platform for more entrepreneurs to share and tell their story and share their resources and what they can do for each other. I'm glad to keep this going.
Thank you very much for that, and keep up the great work.
Great. Thanks, Ilya. See you next time.
Thank you very much.